Ontario just announced its rent increase guidelines for 2023. What is it, and what should you do about it? Typically, rent increases follow the CPI, the inflation rate. This year with inflation running at 7%, 8% plus, it's not that. It's only 2.5%, which is, a little bit surprising.
The increase was marked at 2.5% for 2023. So this applies to most rent increases between January 1st and December 31st of 2023. This is the maximum that a landlord can increase the rent under most circumstances.
But there are some circumstances where they can increase it more, right?
Yeah, so there is no rent cap on properties that were built after November 15th, 2028.
Take note,
yes.
Investors.
That means condo buildings, new buildings, but that can also mean a basement that was not inhabited before and has been newly remodeled.
Laneway suites?
It can apply to laneway, garden suites, things like that. So you want to be careful if you're a tenant, and you want to be aware if you're a landlord as well.
So Ben, what should tenants take note of here? What's kind of important for tenants?
Right, so one thing that the tenants should know for sure is that this has to be delivered in notice from the landlord if they're going to increase your rent 90 days ahead of time.
Yep.
They can only do it once per year, and it has to be at least 12 months after you've started your rent or 12 months after the last rent increase.
And Landlords Note, you got to give people 90 days notice, right? A lot of landlords forget, and this increase gets delayed by months and months because they don't do it properly.
And speaking of properly, you want to keep everything above board. There is a specific form that you need to use to send to your tenants. It's great to send them an email, text, whatever, but you want to make sure you're using the correct form when you do it.
Just use the standard form.
And tenants, if you think there's an error with something that your landlord's brought to you, of course you can try to address it with your landlord first. But remember, the Landlord Tenant Board does exist, and they're there for you to help both sides, landlords and tenants, if there's ever a dispute or disagreement. And it's also good to keep in mind that rents have really skyrocketed in the city over the last year, right? So even if your landlord does increase your rent by 2.5%, that probably is still well under comparables, even for the neighborhood you're currently living in. So Paul, what are some things that landlords should be aware of?
Great question, Ben. I used to think real rental properties were a great hedge against inflation, because you could raise rents with the CPI. Right. Turns out that's only true if inflation is normal. When it gets out of control, as it has, governments are going to react, and probably they're doing a balancing act saying, well, there's way more tenants than there are landlords, so we'll get more votes that way. Rental increases are a balancing act. Ben finds you a great tenant, you're probably going to want to keep great tenants. So it's probably worth a conversation with them just, to see where they are at affordability. Because, the thing is you want to keep good tenants, but you probably want them to turn over probably on the average of about 3 years so you can, get back to market rents. The vicious cycle is if you get stuck in a situation where you're not raising rents, and then 10 years later, tenants are paying way below market,
right,
and they're going to stay, right? And, you say, well, that's fine, I can still afford it. But when you go to sell, the problem is the value of your rental property is actually based on net operating income, right? So the lower that is, the less you're going to get for your property. I usually tell landlords, hey, listen, just go with the standard rental increases, but it is worth a conversation with your tenants. During the lockdowns, what we just went through, what I told landlords was, instead of dropping rents because rents were going down, offer your tenants a month free, or do something that won't impact the long-term income of the property, but will help your tenants out in the short term.
We hope you found that hugely helpful. If you liked the video, make sure to comment, leave a like, or reach out to us at info@thinkto.ca if you have any questions.
And if you're looking to rent, Ben is a great guy to talk to. If you're a landlord and you have any questions, let us know. Happy to help.
Thanks.